will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speaking in Memphis on April 3rd, 1968, the night before he was assassinated. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we will discuss Dr. King's ongoing legacy, especially as important as ever, because today is also the first nominating contest of the pivotal 2024 presidential campaign. Turnout for the Iowa caucuses could be an issue because it will be absolutely frigid tonight, with temperatures well below zero across the state. Voters must be at their caucus precincts by 7 o'clock Central Time, and weather will absolutely be a factor. With us, we have the president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton, founder of the conservative website, The Bulwark, Charlie Sykes, is with us, the host of Way Too Early, White House bureau chief at Politico, Jonathan Lemire, and in Iowa, NBC News national affairs analyst John Heilman is with us this morning. Joe?
Rev, I just wanted to talk about that remarkable speech in Memphis before we launch into politics and all the other issues of this day. On that day, the night before Martin Luther King was shot, he talks about going to the mountaintop and sing to the other side. Of course, using just an extraordinary reference from the Old Testament where God says to Moses, go up and see the land that I have prepared for the children of Israel. Talk about that night, talk about that legacy. Talk about what it means for all of us today.
Well, I think that clearly it is a sermon he preached the night before he was killed. He was in Memphis, Tennessee to support striking garbage workers who were led by a union, AFSME. And he came as he was building to fight for poor people to have equal income, to have a better life. And he was under threat. People don't realize Dr. King in 1968 was very unpopular because he had come out against the war in Vietnam. Even other civil rights leaders had attacked him. But he stood up on moral grounds. 55% of blacks said he was negative in the last poll they did on him before he died. And he stood his ground. He stood for nonviolence. He stood for change. And as you referred to in the Bible, Moses, who God brought up in the Bible narrative, that God brought up and let him look over to see the promised land, but he didn't get there. And Dr. King said he will not get there with us, but we as a people would get to the promised land. And here we are all these years later, where we are now facing some of the same battles, affirmative action being just about gutted by this Supreme Court. We're fighting DEI. We have presidential candidates talking about the Civil War should have been negotiated. So I thought about, as I woke up this morning here in Washington, and I'm here with Martin Luther King III and his wife and his daughter, the only grandchild of Dr. King. We're doing our National Action Network breakfast, I thought about what Dr. King would think about when people talk about negotiating away the Civil War and forgetting to mention slavery was part of why the Civil War was. And then I think Dr. King would be challenging us of all parties and races to make this beloved community a reality. Don't just sit around complaining. Do something about it.
And how incredible, Mika, that is, as the Rev said, Martin Luther King, not popular in the final years of his life. He was seen as too radical by white America. He was seen as too passive and conservative with a small c by large segments of black America. He was despised by those who wanted to use violence to push civil rights. And who's talking in the studio there?
I don't know.
Could you ask him to stop talking?
Okay.
All right.
I heard you.
And so here you have what's remarkable is in 1965, 1964 and 1965, we had the Second American Revolution. As John Meacham says so beautifully and so eloquently, for the first time in American history, the laws of this land actually allowed black Americans the civil rights and the voting rights that they had been stripped from for so long. And even 3 years later, people were pushing Martin Luther King, one of the most transformative figures in American history, certainly the 20th century, to go even further and push for violence. He did not do it, and he changed the world in a way very few have. Just a remarkable time, important to remember Martin Luther King, and very important for Americans, especially this year when American democracy is on the line and the rights of black Americans, of all Americans, rest and hang in the balance.
Absolutely. And I thank you both for those remarkable words. And the fight still today is almost as if we have fallen back. And Rev, you're going to be having President Biden on your radio show today. Give us a preview.
He's going to call in this afternoon at 3 o'clock on my syndicated radio show and talk about the legacy of Dr. King as he sees it and the election, how it fits in. He was our speaker last year as president at this same breakfast. And then I fly back to New York and we'll do my radio show. I think it's interesting, though, that we're having the Iowa caucus on Martin Luther King holiday and how race inadvertently became a part of it because of Donald Trump's statements and Nikki Haley's around slavery. So it seems like it's like Dr. King would always say, you make 2 steps forward and 3 backward. And what Martin III and Andrea King and all of us are trying to do, National Action Network, is keep moving it forward. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.